I now go on and invite Professor Dr. Michael Wasserman. Right, we talked about internationalization or international crowd already, and we have quite, you know, a variety of nationalities here. You're from the United States. So how does your international background or the international background really benefits, and who does it benefit?
Good question, Frau Schumann. Thank you. I think that if you look at all the stakeholders involved in my relationships here in Germany so far, I've brought also, like some of the other professors, I've brought research partnerships over with me. I've brought industry partnerships over with me. I certainly didn't burn any bridges when I moved to Germany. And then I've grown a lot of new partnerships here, kind of working backwards with the support of the FH. They've been fantastic in helping me gain introductions and insights into both startups here in Münster, to regional companies, kind of Mittelstand companies here, to large international companies that are based in Germany as well. And it really benefits first and foremost, I think, my students. So I do a lot of applied project work with my students and get them involved. Learning by doing, I think, is always a fantastic way for our students to learn, to really get their hands dirty with real applied problems, get them in front of top management teams, presenting their findings. So I think it's really helped the students, both in terms of my classroom teaching and then the project-based learning that I do. I certainly think it's helped the FH, and it works both ways. So our FH, I've brought in contacts and guest lecturers and some research projects into our school, help my colleagues as they've helped me get adjusted. And then for me personally, it's also been fantastic, both to enrich my teaching and enrich my research. I'm involved in a really cool project right now with colleagues both here in Germany at the FH, but also in Spain and Ireland, and then reaching back to my network in the US. So I really think it's kind of a triangle or a three-legged stool. You've got students, you've got the FH, you've got me, and then I guess also the fourth leg of the chair. Now it's not a stool, but I think our regional businesses here in the Münster area and NRW.
Okay, just for our audience to understand, FH stands for Fachhochschule, and that's basically the old word for Universities of Applied Sciences. We now, rather go for Hochschule für angewandte Wissenschaften. Nonetheless, you told me that you had a pretty good, in contrast to many others, not just abroad, but also in Germany, academics especially, you had a pretty good idea of the concept of the model of a University of Applied Sciences, and that for you, this is a perfect fit. How so?
Well, I don't want to date myself too much, but I'm pretty old, so I'm 54. And going back to when I met my wife, who's also U.S. American, and you can see I'm German, but I lost an N at the end of my name. So way back, I was German, and then my family was in the U.S. for 100 years, and I kind of did the reverse immigration thing. But my wife, she actually did her study abroad way back when in Reutlingen at the Hochschule there. So I knew what a Hochschule was very early on, and then one of my the last U.S. university that I was at for 15 years. Had a partnership with the HTWG Konstanz, which is the Hochschule in Konstanz on the Bodensee, down in southern Germany. And so I came at this from the other side. So as a US professor, we had a partnership agreement where we did a lot of team teaching. We did a lot of bringing students back and forth. And so before I even thought about working in Germany, I was actually already aware of the differences between a Hochschule and a Uni. And I also have some friends that were profs at Uni who were chairs. And I knew that was not something that was probably in my wish list to be a chair.
Why not? I mean, why is it a perfect fit for you?
So the university that I was at in the US for 15 years is a smallest school called Clarkson University in upstate New York on the Canadian border, but it was also very applied as well. And most of my research was applied as well, working with companies and organizations and government agencies. And that's really where my passion was, to really have one foot in business and one foot in the classroom. I've been a 3-time entrepreneur, so I've done a lot with startups as well. Not nearly as cool as some of my colleagues on the panel and Professor Zabi, but done a lot with entrepreneurship as well. So I'm a big believer also in the kind of the importance of getting students to think, if not entrepreneurially, at least intrapreneurially, as a key skill for the next generation. So yeah, all those reasons.
Right. Let me pick up on that. You mentioned startups, and you told me that you are in charge at FH Münster for the innovation and digitalization and also entrepreneurial teaching. So what kind of approach, what kind of, I don't know, atmosphere thinking, American way of thinking did you bring or contribute to Münster? I mean, did you bring the world to Münster?
That might be a little bit of a stretch, but I developed this program with 3 or 4 of my colleagues, one of which is I share the Studiengangsleiter role with, but we created from a clean sheet of paper this master's program, and we did. I did use a lot of the benchmarking that I'd learned in the US. I'd started innovation programs in the US. I'd worked with incubators and startup programs in the US, so I brought a lot of that with me. I also did some benchmarking using my network in Ireland, in Spain, in Italy, in Sweden and Finland. So I had some people that I really consulted with. And then I used my business network, my colleagues that are working both for startups and in the venture capital space. And we were really able to bring in a kind of a global best practice view, and then combine that. My colleagues brought in people from the startup scene here in Münster. So we tailored an approach that I think was global in its perspectives and served our students to work anywhere in the world, but was really tailored to fit our business environment and our ecosystem here in Münster. So I think it was kind of a mix, if that makes sense, of putting together the right team to bring in the right ideas. And it's a super flexible program, super applied. This is just our 2nd year, but students are happy. The students, 3/4 of them have already had job offers of the 1st year, and they haven't even graduated yet. I mean, it's a good job market, but clearly we're hitting some of the right notes. So it's been fun. So that's kind of my approach of kind of trying to mix global and local together, if that makes sense, to make things fit for our students in our region.
So you brought your network, to Münster, but clearly, as we also pointed out before, UAS are also firmly rooted in the region, and you also cooperate with the local companies. But how do you go about that? I mean, how do you connect with businesses on the ground? I don't know, how good your German is yet. Schlecht. Okay. So, but how do you, especially then, connect with people and local businesses?
So again, mein Deutsch ist besser, ist nicht super schlecht, aber ich lerne langsamer, because I teach all in English. This is what they brought me in to do. I'll never teach in German. The dean told me that when I said, "Oh, do you want me like 2 or 3 years to teach in German?" He's like, "We have plenty of Germans that want to speak in German, teach in German. You're going to teach in English if that's okay with you." I'm like, "Fine." So, but yeah, I guess it's cool. Through my colleagues and my PhD students, I met some local entrepreneurs. We immediately developed a program for having entrepreneurs in residence, something that we did in the US and some of the other Hochschulen here have, but we immediately brought those 2 in. They opened lots of doors. We have a couple of really cool PhD students at when I started, and they really helped open up the network to me. And some of it was just people came to me. They said, "Oh, you're new." And this is one of the cool things about being international, is all of a sudden you're kind of the new kid on the block and you're different. And that can be kind of hard, but that can be a really cool thing too. And I try to work that into my advantage. And again, learning some German, I would say, Entschuldigung, mein Deutsch ist schlecht. And people say, "Oh, I'll switch to English, no problem." It's just starting a little bit, learning that beginning bit of the language to break the ice is really works amazingly well. So I've been really fortunate to have a wonderful network, and people really helped me to adjust here and made it really not only easy, but a pleasure. I mean, I've learned a ton, and I hope that this continues, and I hope that the participants in the audience that come and join us have a similar experience. But I think if you give, you get back, right? What comes around goes around is the kind of American saying. And I think when you offer your network out and you offer to support students, they come and help you. And now the cool thing is 5 years in, I have former students coming back to me saying, Mike, I have a great program at a company that I'm in. Oh, I want to hire some of your students. Can you help connect me? And so the network just grows. It's an ecosystem approach, which I know is kind of a entrepreneurial buzzword, but it's what we're building in Münster. And it's, I think what UAS is and the UAS7 is actually fantastic at. They build ecosystems and they're open. Everybody is invited and everybody can join.
Thank you so much. That really sounds convincing, and it sounds you have a very satisfactory job and also a lot of fun as well.
I do.
So
I do.
Let's bring you back at the end as well. And thank you for now.